People who insist on making bold predictions or guarantees about the greater Toronto area real estate market are just stupid in my opinion. When you go out and put it on Twitter, like this idiot right here, it takes you to a whole new level of dumb. Hey everybody and welcome back to the channel. It's me, Rob Marsiglio, sales representative with Keller Williams Referred Urban, and the idiot who put that tweet out on June 23rd, making that bold guarantee. That was a complete flop. We're going to dive into that today, kind of catch you up on what has gone on since then on this kind of month-long hiatus I've been on this channel. So please stick with me right through to the end of the video for some great content and maybe a funny meme or two. Okay, back to this tweet. I said 25,000 active listings across the GTA by the end of June was all but guaranteed. The real question was, how close would we get to 26,000? It is important to note that GTA active listings and what is reported on the TREB Market Watch are two different numbers. The GTA active listings number tends to be a little bit higher because it takes into account all property types, including things like vacant lands, duplexes, triplexes, which aren't actually reported on the TREB Market Watch. So again, GTA numbers are a little inflated relative to the TREB Market Watch numbers. And for the sake of this graph and my weekly updates that I do over on X, I do talk about the GTA in general, not just TREB Market Watch numbers. I'm going to bounce back and forth a little bit today, but you can see when I made my bold prediction, it was right around here. We had 24,713 active listings in the system. Bit of a spoiler alert, you can see the tail coming down maybe, but we're on a crazy trajectory upwards all the way through June. We had seen kind of the most listings, active listings gain in that month of any point really in the last year. But immediately after that prediction, you can see we had our kind of month end going into July terminations and expiries. Then it's really just been a slow build ever since, whereas this past week, this is Monday the 15th of July, we're up to 24,786 active listings. So to comment on that tweet that I made, how close do we get to 26,000? Not close at all, dummy, no matter if you're looking at it from a GTA perspective or from the TREB Market Watch perspective. But why has this happened? Well, let's take a look at what has happened on a daily basis since I made my bold prediction, both in terms of new listings, sales numbers, and terminations right across the Greater Toronto Area. So again, we are looking at all the GTA. This is not TREB Market Watch active listings numbers. What you'll see here is I put this big red arrow right on the trend line as to where I made my bold prediction. So there you go. That's the 23rd of June. I said, we're going to hit 25,000 active listings guarantee, take to the bank. Maybe we'll get close to 26,000. Was not the case. As you can see, listing activity really fell off in that week leading up to the July Canada Day long weekend. Really bottomed out on Canada Day. We saw a bit of a bounce back the week following, but it's now on to kind of that normal summer listings activity. Definitely lower than we've seen, kind of in line with what we saw back in maybe early May, late April, but not getting anywhere back to the levels that we saw in early June that were spurred on, like we said, this big bulge right here, spurred on by the rate cut as we've talked on in previous videos. So new listings falling off is not something you want to see when you make a prediction that active listings are going to continue to skyrocket, head north at 25,000, 26,000, all that stuff. One thing you do want to see if you're making that prediction is sales falling off, and that definitely happened. Again, you can see where I made my bold prediction. We know that reported sales numbers usually lag listings by about a week. The reason is those properties have to be on the market for a little bit. Let's say that the majority of properties selling right now are happening in offer night situations. It's going to take about a week for that property to be marketed before offers are received. So here's our week of kind of sustained sales activity, followed by that fall off, extremely low sales. This is Canada Day right here, Monday, extremely low sales reported. And the bounce back hasn't been up to previous levels. If we compare this long weekend dip to the one that we saw over the May 2-4 long weekend, you could see sales dropped off for that week, but then did bounce back up. And we kind of hit back to levels that we were at right through April for the remainder of May. We're falling off a little bit in June, but then this fall off after the July long weekend has not been met with that same bounce back in sales activity on the back end. So active listings did not hit the numbers I thought they would. New listings fell off, which does not help that case. Sales also fell off, which does help my case, but the wild card is listing removals or terminations and expiries, and you're going to see exactly what has happened since my bold prediction with those numbers. Here we go, one last time, the big embarrassing red arrow highlighting my prediction. A little bit of a fall off in terminations following that, but heading into the new month, we saw a bunch of expiries, a bunch of terminations. You can see this massive spike. It was actually our biggest kind of termination expiry day of the year so far. Almost 650 listing removals in one day after the long weekend. That really sent that trend line soaring. And, it stayed above trend from where we're at. Listing terminations and removals are still happening quite frequently, kind of more frequently than we've seen previously this year. And that will really keep active listings down. So remember, it doesn't take a sale to remove a listing. It can happen through a seller choosing to terminate because they're not getting the price they want for their property, or a property, again, just sitting there for a long amount of time. Let's take it off for the summer because there's not much buyer activity, they figure, and we'll try and capitalize on that kind of hot, maybe hot, probably not, fall market. I think I just made another prediction that the fall market will not be hot. So based on my track record recently, expect gangbusters this September. One thing that I didn't take into account that I probably should have a little bit more is the seasonality effect. What do active listings look like in the GTA over a year? And that's this chart that I've showed a number of times. So we're bouncing back to the Treb Market Watch numbers now. So that's why this number here, the 23,613, is actually a little lower than the 24,000 that we ended up with at the end of June, according to just the entire GTA. But we'd been on a kind of crazy pace of active listing growth. We'd lagged trend up till March. Then April, we saw a huge spike. May, another big increase. June, another big increase when we'd expect things to flatten out. But now we're really fighting against this drawdown in active listings that we usually see through July and August. Will we see this number come down in July from where it was in June? I want to hear from you in the comments. Let me know what you think. Will we see active listings continue to climb through the summer, something that we very rarely, if ever, see? Or will we follow seasonality? Sellers or homeowners will choose to take their properties off the market and relist in the fall time, as we're used to seeing. Now, when you break that active listings number down by each region, property type in Toronto, and just each area across the GTA, you can see that everybody did experience that little bit of a step down from June into July. But now we've seen this gradual increase again. So as of July 15th, I posted it on the 16th. It was my Monday months of inventory on a Tuesday over on Twitter this past week. We actually have 3 market segments, or 3 different markets, where the active inventory is set a year-to-date high again. So Toronto condos are up over 7,300 active listings right now. Peel region is up over 4,500 active listings right now. And Halton region is just shy of 2,500 active listings right now. Everywhere else, with the exception of the Toronto freehold market, did see week over week increases in active listing, but Durham and York region have not hit those year-to-date highs again quite yet. Will that happen in the summertime? Will it happen in the fall? That is to be determined. But again, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. So we touched on the slowdown in sales activity that we're seeing from my bold prediction through to now. That's really drawn the 30-day rate of sales down. And if you have watched this channel before, you know that months of inventory is calculated by taking the number of active listings that we have at any given time and dividing that number by the number of sales over the previous 30 days in that same region. So active listings, like we said, they're pretty flat. They came down a bit, but have now bounced back up to the levels that we saw at the peak in June. But sales activity has fallen off. And that has resulted in this next chart. Months of inventory across the board has really shot up in July as a result. You can see the only market that has surpassed the peak from last year is the Toronto condo market, which I have all the numbers on the next slide, so bear with me until we get there. Everywhere else is setting kind of year-to-date highs in months of inventory through the summer. Again, that's something that's not too out of the norm. I would say that the kind of pace at which it is increasing is probably a little faster this year because I think there's more homeowners and more home sellers hanging on, trying to sell their properties in the summer still this year. But buyers, it looks like, are following that same playbook of really taking the summer off and trying to enjoy the weather that we have right now. Here are those numbers. Again, our months of inventory, Monday months of inventory on a Tuesday. Toronto is up at almost 3.5 months of inventory. Very significant gains right around, right? The smallest increase that we did see in terms of percentage-wise and actual jump was in the Toronto condo market, where it was only just shy of a 2% jump in months of inventory. Everywhere else, especially Halton region, small, it's the base effect that's really caused this 11% jump in months of inventory. But everywhere across the board, we have no region under 3 months of inventory in the Greater Toronto area right now. And the reason that 3 number is important is because by the technical definition for months of inventory, if you're above 3, you're officially in a balanced market. So between 3 and 5 or 3 and 6, whatever you want to call it, is a balanced market. It's when you get over 6, so that Toronto condo market, where you start to see it being classified as a buyer's market by this metric. And I promised a meme off the start. This is the one that I came up with that kind of explains, I think, the sales activity that we're seeing right now, what is happening with inventory, why we're seeing a lot more inventory just sitting on the market. Close to 50% of all active listings have been sitting on the market for 30 plus days right now across the GTA. And that number would be even higher if we looked at a property and how long it's been sitting on the market. And that's because, sellers, they have this whole, but I paid. Buyers do not care how much you paid for your property at the peak or just before the peak and how much money you have put into that property. They're looking at rates, the monthly payment that they can afford right now. And that is still much less than what you're asking for your home in most cases as a seller. So we're really going to need to see some big changes in terms of either seller expectation or improved affordability conditions for buyers, the latter of which I think is by far the less likely. We're not anticipating major rate cuts that are going to improve affordability by all sorts. We're not anticipating major pay increases, which is going to improve affordability. It's really going to have to be that selling price that comes down to get this market moving again. I can tell you from experience right across the board, working with buyers in the suburbs with budgets, in the kind of mid six figures, all the way up to buyers in the city who are looking closer to $2 million. It really is the same story. We've had a couple instances where offer nights, we were the only ones at the table and the seller just chose not to sell because it wasn't close to their expectations. We're going to need to solve that issue to get things moving again. Thanks so much for sticking with me through to the end of another video. I know it's been a while since I posted. Life just gets in the way sometimes. I'm going to do my best to get back here next week with another video for you. But until we speak again, please stay safe and cheers.